All right, so we're just going to record this section here where we go over how to interpret VOR DME information, VOR information. Right, so what the VOR tells you is it just tells you where the airplane is. It doesn't tell you how far away from the station it is. It just tells you where the airplane is relative to the station. It also doesn't tell you anything about which way the airplane is pointed or which way it's heading. It just tells you at that instant in time, where is the airplane? Which is super useful navigation instrument information. Now, the basic procedure here, right? So if we have our VOR station here in the middle, and we just remember that this is broadcasting a bunch of radio signals along each of those radials, they call them, from 0 degrees all the way back around to 360 degrees back to zero. And then we just remember that this instrument down here will be labeled in the cockpit without that last zero, right? So 9 would be 90 degrees, 18 would be 180 degrees, 27 would be 270 degrees. So in the cockpit, you would pick the radio that you're tuned to, that you want to tune to. One very common thing to do is to tune the the radio navigation radio to the frequency that this is broadcasting on, and then adjust that OBS knob until that line comes up right underneath that center dot. That lets you know which radio you're on, and then leave it there. And then if you want to fly toward the station, point the airplane toward the station, and then that lets you know, hey, this heading would take me to the station, right? So if you say, let's see, let's put in an example here. So let's say we've got this tuned to radial 27. So we tune this instrument to radial 27. And we observe that the airplane is on the line that runs 270 degrees, that runs through 270 degrees. So this is going to be that east-west line. So let's go ahead and draw that. Right. So we've got this radial we're tuned to running east to west at 270 degrees. Let me make that bigger. There. And what happened to I wanted it red. Good. Yellow. Yellow will do. Now we're going to have it run east to west along that 270-degree line. Now, if we have the airplane and we have it tuned to that 270-degree line, and we're in a position where that 2 flag is lit, so on the instrument, there's a little arrow up on that little up arrow here that's next to the 2. If that arrow is pointed up, then that lets us know that the airplane is in a position where if you pointed it at a heading of 27, at a heading of 270 degrees, that would take the airplane toward the station. It doesn't mean that the airplane's actually headed toward the station. What it means is that if you pointed the airplane at 270 degrees and you flew along that line, that radial, that it would take you toward the station. That's the position you're in. So to figure out where the airplane actually is, what we do is we come along our compass, right? So we recognize we're somewhere along this line, right? So first things first, we draw the radial that we're tuned to. We draw the line that the airplane's sitting on. We know now it's on this line somewhere. Now we can't know how far away we are from the station, but we can know which side of the station we're on. Now this also tells us that we are in a position where if the arrow is pointed up, we're in a position where if we pointed the airplane at 270 degrees, that course would take us toward the station. It lets us know, okay, so what it lets us know is I'm over here in a position where if I pointed the airplane at 270 degrees and I flew along that line at 270 degrees, that course would take me toward the station. Once I pass the station, that 2 flag is going to flip around. And so first the instrument's going to flip over to off as it gets confused as we get too close to the station, and then that's going to flip from the 2 flag to the from flag and let me know that now I'm in a position where if I keep flying, if I were to point the airplane at 270 degrees and keep flying along that line, now I'm in a position where that course is going to take the airplane away from the station. Right. This is the information that I can get out of this. The instrument is capable of telling me where around the station am I on this side of the station or the other side of the station? Which side of the station am I on, and where am I around the station? Now, the usefulness here, right? So this radio frequency device, it'll work whether you're in the clouds or whether you're in the clear. And what you can do is, if you want to navigate from station to station, say you're flying cross country and you want to navigate from station to station, and you figure, okay, well, I'm gonna take my VOR instrument, and then I turn it on and I adjust the OBS knob until I find the radial that I'm on that's going to take me to the station. Let's say I flip the needle, I turn the OBS knob until I find, okay, I am on the radial. I have the line come to the center. And lets me know that the airplane is on this radial. And let's say that as we're doing that, the two flag lights up. So it lets me know I'm in a position where if I pointed the airplane at 180 degrees and I flew along that radial, that course would take me toward the station, right? So if I'm flying from station to station to station, well, that lets me know, okay, first of all, I'm on that line. It's going to run between 0 and 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and make that line. Should have just kept the old line and moved it. Somewhere along that line. Don't know which side of the station I'm on, but I do know that I'm in a position where if I flew that course, if I flew along that 180-degree radial, I'm in a position where the airplane would be flying toward that line. Sorry, flying toward the station. I'm in a position where I'm on the 180-degree radial. The airplane that dot in the middle, is on that line. And if I were to point it at 180 degrees, that course would take me toward the station. Doesn't actually tell me that I'm doing that, right? There's no heading information with this, right? The airplane could actually be pointed off some other direction. And the airplane can be pointed any old which way. You got to check the heading indicator for that. But this navigation instrument is telling me that if I were to point the airplane at 180 degrees, that course would take me toward the station. So then if I want to fly from station to station to station, well, I can just take that airplane, I can fly it toward the station, and when the needle goes crazy, and then I get an off flag, and then I pass the station, that flag comes back up. I've really got two options here, right? I can keep flying along here, and now as we pass the station, the two flags go into a from flag. I've really got two options here. I can either keep flying along this same line with that from flag lit, or I can tune in the next station on my VOR, on my navigation radio. It's common to have the next one already tuned in, so that way once you pass this station, you go ahead and pick up the next one. And then I can use my OBS knob to figure out where I am on which radio I'm on for the next station. And then if I want to go to the next station, well, I just point the airplane along that line, make the heading match that line, that the radial that I've picked with the two flag lit, and then go fly to that next station, right? And you can proceed that way from VOR to VOR. Now, that's the next thing to know, right? So if I'm in a position where, so let's go ahead and set this to radial 0, not 090. So now I've got it set to radial 0. And let's say the to flag is lit. Right, so we've got our to flag lit. If our to flag is lit, that lets us know that we are in a position where a course of 0 degrees, a heading of 0 degrees, would take us toward the station. We also know that the airplane, that dot in the middle, is on this line that's going to take us toward the station, right? So the procedure here is we draw the radial we're tuned to, we decide which side of the station we're on. That's the information we can get. Now, the one thing to know about as you're flying this line, right? So if you, just similar to the ILS system, if the airplane goes to the right of the line, well, the airplane, the dot in the middle, will go to the right of the line. And then to get back there, well, you move the airplane to the left until it's lined back to up with the dot, until the dot is lined up with the line, right? You move the airplane toward the line. If you are to the left of the line, right, the line will show that the airplane, the line is over here on the right side of the airplane. That dot will be on the left side of the line, right? That line will drift over to the right side of the airplane. You got to move the airplane back toward the line, move the airplane back toward the line, and then follow that line forward to your destination. Again, this doesn't tell you which way the airplane's actually pointed. You have the option of pointing the airplane at 0 degrees and flying that course, but you don't have to. Now, one thing to know here is once you pass the station and that to flag switches to a from flag, the line behaves oppositely. All right, so now once you pass the station, I have that from flag lit. Now when the airplane is to the right side of the line, you know, you're tuned to the 0 line, but now it's going to behave oppositely, right? Because you're in a position where you're heading of 0 degrees. If you point the airplane at 0 degrees, it's going to take you away from the station. So now when the airplane's on the right side of the line, in order to get it back to the line, you've got to move the airplane to the left. And the needle's going to show you that. And it's going to show you that, hey, it's going to show you that line over here. And then you got to move the airplane the opposite direction to get back to that line. So it's just something you got to be careful of if you're gonna fly along that radial with a from flag lit. As the needle is going to show you the opposite direction you should go. Now, if you pick the wrong direction to move the airplane, obviously the needle's going to get further away from the airplane, so you can quick go back the other way. So that's the procedure here. Now, again, just to jog through it here one last time. Let's say we're tuned to the radial 9. Radial 9 corresponds to a heading of 90 degrees, right? We'd add that 0 back. So first things first, we're going to draw the radial we're tuned to, right? So we're going to draw that line that runs through the station along a heading of 90 degrees, right? So we know that we're somewhere on this line. And then we're going to take a look at the to from flag. I'm going to leave that flag the way it is. So I'm going to decide which side of the station we're on, whether I'm over here or whether I'm over here. I know that I'm in a position where a heading of 90 degrees would, I'm not saying I'm pointed at 90 degrees, but if I pointed the airplane at 90 degrees and I flew along the line, that heading would take me away from the station. So I'm in a position where if I point the airplane, where if I pointed that airplane at 90 degrees, in a position where if I pointed the airplane at 90 degrees, it would take me away from the station. So I'm not over here, right? This position over here, if I point the airplane at 90 degrees, it's going to take me toward the station. Lets me know I'm over here. I'm in a position where a heading of 90 degrees would take me away from that station. All right, so that's how this is working. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my recording real fast. And